Joining me is the chairman, editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, Steve Forbes. Thank you so much for coming
Andrew,
in.
good to be with you.
I actually scared some of the producers. Like, I'm going to write this monologue. It's really good. It's going to be all about the stuff that Steve Forbes writes about. And you have a new book, Freedom Manifesto. I went right to the chapter on failure. And it amazes me when I hear Barack Obama and the Democrats talk, whether they're talking about General Motors or Solyndra, they don't believe that failure has positives, and it's also a discipline in of itself.
Well, it's often from failure that you are able to make advances. Bill Gates said, success is a poor teacher. He had some setbacks in the early part of his career. It's part of learning. It's part of taking responsibility for yourself. And what President Obama effectively is saying is the government will do it all for you. You be passive. You don't go out there and discover what your inner talents are. You don't go out there and take responsibility and try things and do things. Learn from what you've done well. Learn from what you've done poorly and advance as a citizen. What Ben Franklin referred to as self-improvement. It's the essence of America. You're constantly renewing yourself, making you better. Take the example of Ray Kroc. I hope there are no nutritionists.
Oh, yeah.
McDonald's, guy in his 50s, so-so career, selling milkshake machines, stumbles across a hamburger stand in California called McDonald Brothers, notices they're doing a brisk business, decides if they expand, he can sell them more milkshake machines. But he had the insight, and no one could have foreseen this, to realize what they were doing. Even they didn't realize. By what the standard methods they used, he realized you could turn the most volatile, tough business in the world into a national and international chain. No one had ever done it before. So here's Ray Kroc, then in the 60s and 70s, just getting in his stride, doing something no one thought was possible. And by contrast, look at Xerox. They had a great research center, Xerox PARC. They invented the mouse, the early version of the mouse. Steve Jobs goes there. He realizes this is a huge deal in terms of...
He didn't do so well in life.
No, terrible. But the thing about Jobs is, because Xerox was focused on copiers, they didn't see what they had invented. Jobs comes in, different eyes, and sees, my God, if we develop this thing, it's going to revolutionize how people do information. And the rest of it, they say, is history. So there's the wonderful thing. Things always happen in free markets. You go to the coffee shop, go to Starbucks, 12-ounce, 16-ounce, 20-ounce cups. You notice the lids are all the same size. Those kind of little innovations, so you don't have to have three kinds of inventories, happen all the time in a free market. People thinking of how to do things better and do things differently.
I want to ask you a question about separating Keynesian economics from the free market. When preparing the monologue today, I was reading more on Keynes, and he had this really bizarre equation that he was trying to teach young economists, that he thought wages it was income, and income equals taxes. But he also believed that by saving money, by holding money away from the economy, because you are denying something from the economy, that should be taxed too. And his flow chart went income equals wages, wages equals income, income equals taxes, saving equals income, income equals taxes, wages equals taxes, or taxes equal wages. And the more I read, he felt that money should be there for the government to support different sectors of the economy if need be. But when people got old or they got sick, they would get some of that money back. And it sounded a lot like Social Security, Medicare. But the problem was that people were, in his mind, should rightly be denied holding on to the fruits of their labor. It was best when government did it.
Well, he fell to the conceit that you saw in Mandarin China and elsewhere, that a handful of smart people can do better than the market with millions of people. Take the brain. One cell doesn't amount to much. You put them together. Magnificent piece of machinery. Same is true of the economy. Literally hundreds of millions, billions of people operating in the economy, making decisions to buy, not to buy, produce, not to produce each and every day. And there's no way a government and a handful of bright people can possibly substitute for the brain power of the billions of people out there and doing things that no bureaucrat could conceive. What he didn't realize is that government is focused on the present. Government is focused on the here and now. And that's why you see President Obama thinking he's being advanced by updating a 19th century technology called railroads, or going back to medieval technology, windmills, instead of realizing fracking, a huge advance in drilling, has made natural gas absolutely abundant and cheap. In time in a few years, we're going to have trucks and perhaps even automobiles using natural gas. But that kind of creativity Keynes didn't realize, and he thought money was really pieces of paper. Money is simply a way of enabling us to do transactions. So if you want to buy my book, you want to give me the Blaze cup in return. But
I'll trade that.
But I may want a piece of this table in return. Money facilitates transactions, so you get something from me, and you decide what you get in return for it. We create money, not governments, not central banks. Money simply makes transactions easier. So when government mucks around with the value of money, it's like going into a store. I want to buy a pound of hamburger, 16 ounces. Well, you don't know if it's 13 ounces, 16, 18. Very hard to do commerce. So you need fixed values, fixed standard measures and weights. Then commerce gets done. People do things. Voila.
When the governments
look like geniuses.
When the government's the steward of our currency, they can manipulate the value.
And that's a form of coercion. We discussed that in this book.
See, I knew I was onto something with the monologue.